Rotogrinders, Dean here, Dean78904. That is the daily fantasy handle. Going to talk tonight's massive NBA DFS slate. It's a 10-gamer. Not a lot of time for pleasantries. Do want to say thank you, though, to TJ. Late swapped in for Grant. Grant out at the last second, internet issues. TJ, thank you for joining us. We'll talk to Kirk Dees in a second, but it's just a big boy slate. So we need three of us. Yeah. Well, how were things in your world?
We got
the Marvel world. Oh, go ahead.
Things are good in the Marvel world. Things are good in the Star Wars world. Had a crazy episode of Book of Boba Fett today, but I had to set the precedent for today's slate. Late swap is going to be important, so I had to be ready to late swap into the show, just like we're going to have to late swap our lineups tonight.
Yeah, do appreciate that. I'm not sure how that shuffles up the usage. Maybe some more usage shuffles the way to Kirk Dees, aka Kid Yahoo. Kirk Dees, what's going on, dude?
Not much, man. Just glad you fixed your tech issues here. That Boomer Dean behind the computer here. But yeah, we got a nice big slate. So interested to talk it through with you.
Yeah, Devin sent out a tweet. He said we're going to be starting 10 minutes early, 5 o'clock on the East Coast sharp, and here we are at 5:07. My bad, but we're still technically early than we are our normal shows. It's a 10-gamer. We wanted to grab a few extra minutes. Try to give each game the most time we can talk about it as far as delegation. But, if we don't talk about some player, or why aren't they talking about so-and-so, why they kind of brush past that guy, that's kind of the reason. It's a big boy slate. Can't talk about everything. If for whatever reason there's something you want us to talk about that we did not talk about, hey, go ahead and ask us in the Discord channel. Producer Steve will be pulling those questions, whatever you guys, want us to elaborate on later on the show. We're going to do our best to leave some time for that. If you're watching us on YouTube and you're like, well, where is the chat? Where is the chat at? The chat is in our Discord right now. Rotogrinders.com/Discord. Go to the live stream chat channel. More details, the better. Let us know if it's for tournament, if it's for cash, if it's for prize picks, FanDuel, DraftKings, single entry, all that stuff. The more details, the easier it would be to answer that question. And again, that is not a premium channel. That is just for anybody. Just feel free to hang out, join the conversation. And do want to say hello to everybody hanging out in the live stream chat as well in the Rotogrinders Discord. Again, rotogrinders.com/Discord. Any questions, comments? We're going to pull those and talk about them later on the show, whatever is relevant. Kirk Dees, do you have anything to say as far as, broad sentiment for this slate? So we're, of course, waiting for a bunch of news. 10 games. There's like 9 teams in the back half of a back-to-back. The Clippers and the Mavericks are playing in a back-to-back, and they always do goofy stuff, so stay tuned on that. There are a large chunk of this slate is early. I think we only have, 2 games at 10 o'clock, I believe. Yeah, and 8 of the 10 games start by 8:30, and 7 of the 10 games start by 8 o'clock. So in theory, we should be getting a bunch of news throughout this show and on crunch time as well. But Kirk Dees, overall thoughts here? We have Harden and Jokic again. Let's run it back, right?
Yeah, pretty much. It's as simple as that for the studs, at least. But we've got a lot of different spots to go to. We do have some news we're waiting on still. We got the Fred VanVleet, Scotty Barnes news, which is pretty big. Jared Allen is kind of big. De'Aaron Fox is pretty big. So, after that whooping my Celtics put on the Sacramento last night, love to see
Did Brown and Tatum outscore the Kings? But I think they did through 3 quarters, right? I'm pretty sure.
They just
I think they outscored the Kings in 3 quarters. They didn't play.
They were the reason I missed Min Cash on my main lineup last night by a point or 2, because Halliburton was my lowest scoring player.
Well, I did cash, but I had Terrence Davis, and so I was a little upset that he went down. So I would have had a big night instead. I had a good night.
Terrence Davis, you don't have to mess with him. He's not playing tonight, but of course, yeah, that's achievement unlocked right there. You cashed last night with Terrence Davis. Congratulations,
Gary Trent Jr., baby.
Yeah, I think he was the highest usage guy there on Toronto last night because they were without FVV and they were out Scotty Barnes, and they play such a ridiculously tight rotation. We'll talk about Toronto soon enough. And that are they a 7:30 game? Yeah, they're an 8 o'clock game. They're in Chicago tonight. I forgot they're on the road, not on East Coast time. All right, let's just go ahead and dive in, break it down game by game. Start with the Hornets at the Pacers. 228.5 is the total. It's a pretty big old number, and it's tight as well. Charlotte is just a 2.5-point favorite. As far as the injury, Charlotte pretty healthy with the exception of Gordon Hayward, who's questionable with his foot. They are on a back half of a back-to-back, traveling as well. I think this Gordon Hayward's hometown, he's home state at least. Jalen McDaniels is also out for what it's worth. Indiana, of course, going to be without Brogdon and Sabonis and Miles Turner, 3 key pieces. But prices have kind of sort of adjusted. Gogo Batadze, one of several of those centers that kind of we're going to be talking about like Bismack Biyombo's and Hassan Whiteside, guys that have some opportunity, but also prices have adjusted over the last several games. I'll throw it to you, TJ. What do you want to start with, Charlotte or Indiana? What are your thoughts here?
I'll start with Charlotte, and I'll start with LaMelo Ball, just because he's been a guy that I've been playing so much lately, and he consistently gets my hopes up because he looks like he's going to have a big game, and then he just settles somewhere in the mid 30s, which is fine, but on these type of high scoring slates isn't really doing it for you. And so if Hayward's out again, I'm going to have a tough time not playing Ball again on FanDuel, just because he's down to 7,600. And yes, he hasn't been the same since he's come back from COVID, but it just feels like this ceiling is coming. And so I like Ball on FanDuel. Rozier has been playing well, great as of late, and he's got incredibly low ownership, so he's an option too. If Hayward plays, like you said, he does, narrative street guys, he does seem to love playing in Indiana. So this is an enticing game on both sides. From the Charlotte side, Ball on FanDuel, it's going to be tough for me to get away from him.
Taking a peek as far as the ownership stuff in this game, like I'm DK, the highest guy we're looking at right now is Torrey Craig, which just seems weird at 13.7%, LaMelo at 13%. You know, this is as of several hours ago. I probably got to give it a refresh as far as the ownership. I'm going to throw it to you, Curtis, see if we can get a refresh on the lineup HQ, because that just seems like, well, it might change. But the LaMelo thing is kind of sort of somewhat interesting, because it's like, you know, you feel like that's too cheap, but you look at the game log, it's like, well, he's probably priced where he should be. And he seems to disappoint more times than not. But, you know, of course, he's playable and he's fine. What do you have, Curtis?
I kind of like this game a lot. I think it's a pretty sneaky game overall. I think, you know, first of all, we know the Hornets play at a blistering fast pace. The thing, and the Pacers haven't been playing defense. The thing is this Pacers squad that they're rolling out now is just horrible on the defensive end. They're the ones that gave up 139 points to the Clippers, who are no offensive juggernaut themselves. They just gave up 117 points to the Pelicans last night. Same situation, a watered down Pelicans team. So if this game can stay competitive, which the spread at least indicates it is, with the Hornets being just a small favorite, I really like this game overall. I think it's going to play extremely fast and with not much defense. And so I think if we're talking Indiana, I think we're going to finally get like a monster LeVert game. I've been waiting for it. He's just kind of been like, it takes him like till the third quarter to turn things on. It seems like he takes off like the first quarter and just kind of like goes through the motions and tries to set up his teammate, and then they get down and then he takes the ball into his own hands. But I think this game is going to be exciting. I do like LaMelo. I like that call. His minutes haven't been there, right? We know that, but he did only play 32 minutes last night. I think this could be a really good, like, fast, sloppy game for him where he could excel with a bunch of steals and really get out on the break. So I do like that call.
We saw Brissett playing. Oh, go ahead.
I think LeVert might be one of my favorite plays on the slate as well. Especially he's at 7,800 on FanDuel, 86 on DK. I don't love him as much there, but on FanDuel, I love the idea of pairing Ball and LeVert together and just hoping exactly like we said, a fast, sloppy game.
You add a third player to this game. What do you think of TJ? Add a third piece. That's out of just one of those two players at each other. If Hayward doesn't play, Martin's kind of interesting. I think on FanDuel, I would say is still minimum. I'm pretty sure he's 3.5 over there. He probably gets some extra run, so pay attention to that. Gogo Batadze is, a good fantasy point minute player. He's kind of volatile, of course, but on the season, 1 fantasy point per minute on DK, 1.06 on FanDuel. Is he somebody that's kind of interesting? I think I have Bismack in front of him and possibly Whiteside as well. I sort of put him in the same bucket. Your third favorite piece, if you're going to run back those two studs, who's the third player that jumps into the conversation if you're going to force one?
On FanDuel, it's probably Martin if Gordon Hayward is out, where he's only 3,500. If Hayward plays and he's not on a restriction, it would probably be him. On FanDuel, I like keeping Goga in the pool because he's cheap and he's got high upside, but there are better options. So that's more of a 150 or multiple mass multi-entering thing. Then I'll keep him in the pool. One lineup, probably not.
Yeah, I like that FanDuel price on Gogo at 5.5K, and there's a chance he puts up like a 40 spot. There's also a chance he headbutts a dude and he gets ejected in the second quarter. Like that, I suppose that's in the conversation as well. Well, speaking of ejections, we saw PJ Washington get ejected last night for fighting with who was he fighting with? Champagne. Yeah, on Toronto. It seemed kind of soft for an ejection, but whatever, not we don't have time for that. Brissett, if you're running 150, is kind of sort of somewhat interesting, but obviously not a key piece. You got a Goga thought there, Curtis, as far as Bataze?
Yeah, I like Goga in this matchup. I think he should do well against Mason Plumlee. The Mason Plumlee saw 32 minutes out of the blue, so maybe he gets less minutes tonight since it is the back-to-back, and maybe they go a little smaller with PJ Washington. And who's fresh tonight is PJ Washington. After his 4 minutes, it only took him 4 minutes to get ejected, like you said.
Well, that's why Plumlee got those extra minutes too.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. So
yeah,
so maybe there's more PJ Washington in this game. People kind of forget about him, so I'll go right back to him for sure. And they did play Brissett at the center position, so if the game goes kind of small, which is what I've been waiting for them to do anyway, because they did that last year, and I think Brissett can really put some numbers up, but we just haven't seen it. But so I mean, he's like a flyer, but but I do like him.
If you get Hayward out, here, this is a very interesting one to look at for a full game stack that still leaves you open spots to pay up for the Hardens and the Jokic's, because you can play PJ Washington at power forward. You can play on the other side of the ball. If you want to go really cheap with Brissett, you think that this game's going to go small. That still leaves that center position open for Jokic, and it gives you a nice game stack situation here.
As far as ownership, by the way, FanDuel's getting a bigger chunk. Of LeVert, we're looking at 7.8K, and the price obviously matters. 7.8 on FanDuel for LeVert is really, really good. On DK, of course, he's playable, but he's 8.6 over there. Only 7% ownership. We're seeing in the 20s on FanDuel, and same kind of deal with LaMelo. LaMelo 7.6 on FanDuel, so therefore he's getting 22% ownership. Goga Bataze at 16%, and like I said before, I did the refresh. This is as of maybe 20 minutes ago or so. Jeremy Lamb at 13% on DK. Craig at 12%. Like, those are not guys I'm seeking out. If it's a last man in, maybe I won't blow my lineup up. But TJ, you thrilled? You're not thrilled to get Lamb or Craig. I guess you'll play them begrudgingly. That's kind of where I'm at.
If they land in a lineup and I'm mass multi-entering, great. But Hayward is officially out. We're just getting a message from. So yeah, that means I like the Charlotte side quite a bit more than the Indy side. If we happen to get Brissett starting, I like them quite a bit. But those wing players aren't my favorite.
Not just out, but Hayward apparently just entered the health and safety protocols. That's something totally different. That's interesting. And sometimes other players in the team get hit too. It's not just one guy. So just gotta stay tuned. And then obviously Magic starting lineup dropped. Safety protocols. There we go.
And say that again? Down still, health and safety protocols. That's definitely going to be one we're going to want to keep our eyes on. And yeah, I definitely like Charlotte a whole lot now.
I think Martin is a really good piece on FanDuel at 3.5, and he's playable at 4K on DK. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I'm on the same page. And even if I'm playing lots of lineups, I don't mind sprinkling guys like Oubre in there as well.
All right, 10-game slate. Let's move on. Milwaukee, Cleveland, 218.5 is the total. Not a big old number, especially when Milwaukee's involved. That's because Cleveland's a good defensive team. They're 4-point dogs there as far as Cleveland. And you just kind of said it as far as Jared Allen. Non-COVID related, but he is dealing with an illness. He missed his last game with an illness. Lauri Markkanen, of course, is hurt for them. As far as the Milwaukee side, they're healthy with the exception of Wes Matthews. And, Grayson Allen got suspended. It's weird. I'll throw it to you, Kirk. Like we kind of touched on it, like Harden and Jokic are the two clear and obvious big spends. And right there is Giannis. And, the path is a little bit murkier, but it's still Giannis. And you can't really guard him. You can subdue him, I suppose, but people aren't playing him. Wait, am I seeing this right? Is our ownership on Giannis like 3%? Because that's outrageous, but I understand it, I guess. We're seeing 3% ownership on DK, Kirk Dees. Like that's weird, sort of.
Yeah, he's got the little injury tag on his name here, so there's a little right knee issue. I'm not worried about it whatsoever. I think this sets up pretty well for him, to be honest with you. I think the Bucks overall, I would be betting the Bucks in this spot too. I just don't think the Cavs are the type of team that does well against this squad. So the Cavs are 29th in opponent steals per game. That's when Giannis gets all his big games, when he has monster steal games. Also, if Jared Allen isn't there, that's just they're a smaller team, and definitely a slower team if they're playing Ed Davis for sure, the corpse of Ed Davis. But So I think he can really attack the paint and do well. And the teams that usually, we know what the blueprint is against Milwaukee. It's you got to shoot threes against them and stuff. But Cleveland doesn't really shoot many threes.
Who benefits if Jared Allen is out? I just pulled up our what if stuff. The biggest benefactor on the Cleveland side. We're giving an 18% bump up to Kevin Love. He would have a projection of 33 DK points, 31 FanDuel points. That's interesting. And, nice little bump to Mobley as well. It was, for me, is popping on FanDuel as is. That FanDuel price of Mobley is really, really positive, and the ownership reflects it. We're looking at 35% ownership, 6.9K, which that is nice indeed. Just that price is too cheap. And you consider, Mobley's going to play 35 or so minutes, pretty solid fantasy point minute player. And that's with Allen in. And of course, if Allen is out, that would hurt one of their rim protectors, and Giannis can exploit that as well. I know they're a good defense historically, but they would take at least a hit to some degree. TJ, jump in here. Your thoughts? Giannis, for what it's worth, probably 16% ownership on FanDuel, just the way the builds go. But on DK, it's less than 5%.
Yeah, if that ownership stays on DK, I absolutely love that play. We have him projected in the top 5 players, which, I mean, of course, he is going to be every slate that he's on. And if you get Giannis Antetokounmpo under 5%, you're obliged, if you're playing lots of lineups, to get double, triple that. You have no choice if he's going to be that cheap, because he can absolutely break a slate regardless of who they play. On the Cleveland side is where it gets a little bit interesting with this Jared Allen stuff, because Evan Mobley, like you said, his price on FanDuel is so cheap. I almost like him better if Jared Allen does play. And as crazy as that sounds, his projection would probably go down if he does play, but there's going to be a lot of rim meetings between Giannis and a big guy on the Cleveland side. And if Jared Allen's not in that game, a lot of those are going to happen with Evan Mobley. And Giannis is very good at getting guys in foul trouble. I know we can't really project that, but if Allen's out, I'm very scared about Giannis. As good of a defender as Evan Mobley is, I'm worried about some foul trouble there.
What about Kevin Love, especially if we see Allen sit? 6K on DK, 5.7 on FanDuel.
If Allen is out, Kevin Love is one of my favorite plays, especially on FanDuel, where he's a little bit cheaper. But I absolutely love it because, like I said, I'm a little bit worried about Evan Mobley, and the way to beat the Bucks is with a 3-point shot. So I love Kevin Love against them if Allen's out.
You don't think Dean Wade's gonna lock down the paint? You'll think he can subdue Giannis Antetokounmpo?
He could try, but that's gonna still end up with, if Dean Wade's the one guarding him on the perimeter, that's still gonna end up with Giannis meeting Evan Mobley at the rim.
It's gonna be Okoro, right? I assume Okoro's got the guy they throw him out there. I guess that's the one that makes the most sense to me.
Isn't Okoro like 6'5"? I think Mobley's going to be the primary defender.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, that's probably more correct.
That's what I think. Let me add something to Kevin Love. The problem with Kevin Love is the minutes, right? So, I mean, he's got to be extremely efficient. And so you look at his last game, you see 43 fantasy points, and it makes sense. But he had to be extremely efficient to get there, shooting 50% from 3, pulling down 11 rebounds. He might do it again. I just worry about his ceiling. I think he's fine for like a lineup filler, but I just, it's like you're never going to get 30 minutes out of this guy anymore.
He doesn't close, even in close games sometimes.
See, we don't have to worry too much about this because we're going to get this news and the starters before lock. But I think this is going to be a game where we're going to see Kevin Love push his minutes ceiling. And the reason for that is this is a much, much bigger team than we saw them go. So last game, they went up against the Knicks. And while the Knicks are big, Kevin Love does not match up well in that matchup. Kevin Love has a lot more players on the Bucks that he could be covering, like Bobby Portis, whereas he didn't have that situation when the Knicks started to close with Randall.
The other thing about Love is worth mentioning. He's an awesome fantasy point minute player. 1.32 on DK that's like superstar level. That's really, really good. 1.24 on FanDuel. So he doesn't necessarily need.
And it does make sense, like TJ was saying. It also makes sense because this is kind of like a bigger game for the Cavs. So maybe they push the envelope a little bit with him. I just worry about it though.
It's like a litmus test game. It's like, okay, we've had a good season. Let's see where we stand up against the national champs, and it's a home game. The crowd's going to be up for more than this. And if the Kings were in town, or this was a road game on Tuesday in Sacramento, I just feel like the less likely to get extra run out of Love. I know there's really no way to quantify that, but I do agree with the assessment and also just kind of the matchups. So Yeah, I think Love is a little bit interesting as well. Like definitely interesting, especially if we see Allen sit out. Curtis, anything else in this game, or shall we move on?
Not going to tout Rajon Rondo, so yeah.
Or Dean Wade, you want to tout that? He's like 3-1 on DK.
I think he's fine. I think he's he's fine. I mean, he played 35 minutes in the last one. I mean, he's just like he's 3,100, like you said. I think he is fine.
Yeah, I mean, you don't roster Dean Wade because you like Dean Wade. You roster because what Dean Wade can get you and your other players. And like, yeah, he's not breaking the slate, but he might get you around 20 or so, which in theory possibly could be helpful. Let's move on. A game that's not very helpful. The Clippers against the Magic, 213.5 is the total. The Magic are a 1-point favorite. Well, I will say this on FanDuel, they kind of, I don't want to say they goofed, but I know he's been scuffling, but you guys see the Cole Anthony price on FanDuel?
I was going to say I don't know about not very helpful because Cole Anthony is arguably one of the best cash game plays on FanDuel.
FanDuel. Yeah. FanDuel specifically. Go ahead. Run with this one because the price seems wrong. I know like Suggs is kind of sort of overthrowing him, and that's a conversation to have, but like anybody's playable for the right price. And like that is the right price to play Cole Anthony. Was he 5-3 on FanDuel right now? Talk about that and expand.
Yeah, we have him currently projected for above 6x his just as his median projection, and he's been doing bad lately, but as him doing bad lately is still about 5x that current price tag. And when the ownership currently is what it is on him, you basically have to play him in cash game. Tournament, absolutely not. He hasn't scored over 30 points in probably like 5 games. So there you can absolutely go to the fade, but cash games, you have to play yourself some Cole Anthony.
What about the rest of the Magic players? Nothing really is a priority for me. Do you have any priorities as far as Orlando outside of Cole Anthony and FanDuel?
I always like taking shots on Mo Bamba. We talked about him that one night, that other day that I was on the show, and then the very next day, or actually no, it was the day that he was on the show. He ended up going off for like 49 points. He had like 7 threes, and then that was the day I was touting him, and so that went well. But I always like taking shots on Mo Bamba. Franz Wagner's got a cheap enough price. Suggs has been crushing it, but his price has gone up there with it. Yeah, Bamba, I don't mind taking shots on. Anthony's great, but other than that, that's about it for me.
Yeah, I don't mind that Wagner price on DK at 5.2K. Small forward specific, nothing else beyond that as far as his actual position, but I think he is playable. And some cheapies on the Clippers side. The Clippers are annoying in the back-to-back. They have Marcus Morris out once again. Batum left last night's game with a back injury, and he's not on injury report today, but the Clippers are not to be trusted as far as their injury reporting. And I would not be surprised if Batum is out at the last second or somebody else is out at the last second because they do goofy stuff. Kirk, your thoughts? And also like DK specifically, Terrence Mann, with the same sort of thought process. Like you got to acknowledge when players are cheap enough. Terrence Mann, he led that comeback. One of the guys leading the comeback last night. The Nard Dog as well too is 4.2K, and we're seeing both those guys get some ownership on DK because they're making stuff work. Your thoughts?
Remember when I've been following the Clippers pretty closely, like when I sat that courtside at that game, and I swear I picked up a lot. Ty Lue loves Luke Kennard, he loves Amir Coffey, and Terrence Mann is his energy guy, right, and defender and whatnot. And so like those are the guys. These guys are dirt cheap. And now with Batum out and Marcus Morris out, I think they need a scorer. Kennard is like one of their few players that can score. Reggie Jackson, it's like hit or miss. So it could be Reggie, or he could get benched like he did last night if he's not playing well, which kudos to Ty Lue because they won that game. And I don't know how they did it, but they did. So I have a lot of interest in Luke Kennard tonight in this spot against a bad Magic defense.
So 3 starters last night: Batum, Zubac, and Reggie Jackson did not play in the second half. Batum, I believe, was because of the back injury. They started Hartenstein in the second half, who's always a good fantasy point player. And I guess pay attention to that starting lineup, but there's some fragility to it. Understand that. And like you said, Arjax played a ton of the first half and played 0 minutes in the second half. Amir Coffey played the entire second half with the exception of like 3 minutes. He played 36 minutes in total. Terrence Mann played 32 minutes. He played a ton as well. Bledsoe's another guy that got kicked off the court. Well, Bledsoe's he's dust, right? We're done with him, I think.
Nah, he is until you reignite him. Keep going, keep going.
I think he's been done for a while. I mean, he'll have his moments here and there, but TJ, your thoughts as far as these cheapies like Mann, Kennard. I mean, if Hartenstein starts, he's interesting. Like, we have him currently projected for 16 minutes. You can't project him to start right now, but I guess that's possible. Maybe they throw Zubac back out there. But again, they're trying to figure anything out with the Clippers. It's a disaster team right now. What do you have from here?
Yeah, I don't think Hartenstein will start, but I mean, we'll get that news before lock. So if he does, he's a fantastic play. Man on DK is a fantastic play, 3.7. Amir Coffey on FanDuel is one of the better value plays on the slate. If he's going to be playing billions of minutes like he has been, he's only 4.4K on FanDuel. A lot will depend on this starting lineup. And so that's nice that this starts at 7 or right at 7 Eastern, because if Kennard hops in the starting lineup, all of a sudden he's a good play. Man is a good play in the starting lineup. Coffee is a good play in the starting lineup. So it's very much going to depend on this set of starters that we get. But I don't think I'd want to have more than 2 of these guys in my lineup, but I don't mind mix and matching these Clippers cheap guys.
All right, let's move on. 10-game slate, big boy slate. 204 is the total. New York at my Miami Heat. Heat are 5-point favorites. TJ, if you can cross one team out on this slate, 10 games, 20 teams, I think it's the Knicks. Can you sell me on any Knick? What do you got for me?
If you're playing 150, you can take a shot on Kemba Walker on FanDuel. He's 4,800. I'm just checking what he is on DK. 63. So there's nothing. 4,800 Kemba Walker on FanDuel. Maybe he gets hot. That's about all I can sell you on the New York Knicks. Same thing. Julius Randle. He's still 8,600. You can play him, but it's a 10-game slate. We got better options.
Yeah, and it's not a good matchup, obviously, against Miami either. Mitch Robb expected to play. Noel is questionable. Otherwise, they're pretty healthy. Miami expecting Tyler Hero back. Kyle Lowry is still out. Well, Curtis, feel free to rebut on the Knicks, or we can just move on in the interest of time. What do you have for Miami?
I don't have much for Miami. On the Knicks, if I want a really dirty tournament play tonight, it would be Evan Fournier. And it would be just hoping he gets hot from 3 and has one of his good games, which, the odds of that are not the best, but I think it's possible. And the Heat are 28th in opponent made threes this season. They give up a lot from behind the 3. But like you said, this game just has massive pace problems and 2 pretty good defensively sound squads. So this total should be disgusting. And it's close to only 200, it's 202.5. So on the Heat, maybe Jimmy Butler, you can always play, and he's priced pretty nicely on DraftKings tonight. And Bam is too. If we can get like the old Bam back, then I'm not sure we can, but 7,700, that's kind of a nice price tag too. So I would look to there. I don't really have any interest in any of the other guys. Tyler Hero will be back, but might take him a little bit to get in full swing, full gear here, but and it's just not the right game for him. But he's kind of cheap too, but they're all getting healthy, so they're not a priority at all. But if I have a bill that has Jimmy Butler in it, I'm completely fine with that.
Yeah, that's where I'm at too. And if I land on Bam, so be it. I'm good with both those guys. I don't know if I'm isolating them, but I'm good with as kind of complete a lineup for sure. TJ, Miami,
the extra pieces, the mid-tier guys, X them all out of the pool, but I think Butler and Bam are genuinely good plays. Butler, it's too cheap for what his price is, especially with no Lowry. He's playing point guard for the most of the time right now. And so, yeah, I like Jimmy Butler. 7.7's way too cheap for Bam. He just had a 60 piece the other night. So I think both of them are good plays.
All right. Sacramento, Atlanta, in theory, big old total, 230.5. Atlanta possible blowout here. They're favored by 10 points. Sacramento, Terrence Davis not playing basketball tonight. It's a back-to-back and a travel for Sacramento. Chemezi Metu is questionable with his knee. De'Aaron Fox also questionable with his knee. Bogdan Bogdanovic supposed to be available for Atlanta. DeAndre Hunter is questionable with his back. I believe I saw a note about Bogdanovic having a potential minutes limit. Just kind of noting that. TJ, I feel like I would like more, a 120 total for Atlanta. There's a lot of pieces. There's a lot of guys. Of course, you can always play Trae Young, but I just don't love it. And there's nothing that says like I have to play this guy on Atlanta. Where are you at as far as the Hawks?
Yeah, there's nothing that screams I have to play them, but there's definitely guys you can take shots on. John Collins, you can take a shot on. With all these wing guys back for Atlanta, I don't love them, but Trae Young is a great pay up option. We have him right now around 12% ownership on FanDuel. Checking what he is on DK.
10
Yeah,
floor.
he's a lot more expensive, but he's sub 5%.
Yeah.
If we're going to be seeing above 50% ownership on Harden tonight, which it looks like we are, yes, of course Harden is a better play. He's a much better play. But Trae Young has almost as high of a ceiling, and he's coming in at a 10th of the ownership right now. So I definitely think Trae Young is a very good tournament option tonight.
Yeah, and the old theory, if like you hit the sim button, you sim the slate 1,000 times, more times than like 10%, probably Trae Young outscores Harden. Just kind of doing it that way as far as the math. Curtis, your thoughts here as far as the Atlanta side, then feel free to jump over to Sacramento, where assuming they don't get completely walloped, Tyrese Halliburton looks like a positive play tonight. He would benefit if Fox is out as well. Again, assuming this game stays tight, which is an assumption because it's the Kings and it's the back-to-back and they're on the road and they're terrible and Vlade Divac has to go. But yeah, Curtis, what do you have? Hawks, jump over to the Kings as well.
I mean, from a game environment standpoint, it looks pretty good. It's got a 231 point total. Both of these teams, or the Kings have played really fast this season. The Hawks are starting to play faster. They haven't been that fast, but both of these teams have struggled defensively, tremendously. The Hawks have just been abominable on defense. And so are the Kings, as we saw last night against the Celtics. You want De'Aaron Fox back in this game because I think they kind of rely on him to be competitive in this spot. And then I think we can feel better about a bunch of these plays. But I'm interested to hear, like, will they ramp up Richaun Holmes? Will they keep ramping him up? Because at 4,500, I'm kind of interested.
He's just been a mess. Like he was dealing with COVID. He was dealing with
the eye issue.
He had foul trouble issue. Like every game, it's something new with him. And we just haven't seen it for a while, really. But it's a good price.
I'm pro Richaun Holmes on DK today, especially if Metu is out again. I wrote him up on the expert survey yesterday, and he was he was their only player in the first half who played moderately well before that gigantic 50-point blowout by the Celtics happened. So yeah, I don't mind Richaun Holmes on DK. If we get De'Aaron Fox out, I'm going to go back to the well on Halliburton, even though it went poorly for me last night. I like a lot of these mid-range 7K guys tonight. LeVert, Halliburton, Ball, these guys, I like that range quite a bit tonight.
We got anything else this game that's worth talking about? You have anything else in the Kings here, TJ, or shall we move on?
Playing lots of lineups, especially if De'Aaron Fox out, you can take shots on Buddy Hield and Davion Mitchell. I want to circle back a little bit on the Clippers, even though we've already talked about them. We got word that Nick Batum will play, or at least he will be available.
Really? That's surprising.
It surprised me too. And so it still makes those value pieces that are going to be in the starting lineup solid, but not quite as enticing.
All right, let's move on. Let's talk about Toronto and Chicago. Incomplete conversation. We'll do our best. 219.5 is the total, back-to-back and travel for Toronto as well. Therefore, they are a 3.5 point dog here. Again, as far as the Toronto side, well, we know FVV, Freddie VanVleet, is questionable. Late scratch last night, and Scotty Barnes. Kyle Birch still has that nose, so he is not available. It is broken. Chicago, Tyler Cook is questionable for what it's worth. DeMar DeRozan is going to be back from his rest. Alex Caruso, of course, injured for a while. Same deal with DJJ, Derek Jones Jr. and Lonzo Ball. Curtis, I guess, the Toronto conversation, right? We saw them go really big last night in the starting lineup. Busted out Precious Achiuwa and Pascal Siakam and Chris Boucher. A really big lineup they ran. I guess we can play the if-then stuff. If Freddie VanVleet plays, I assume he's fine and can go out there and play 40 minutes. Maybe yesterday was just kind of a rest because they knew the back-to-back was coming. But it's Nick Nurse, and he seems to not care about minutes and rest and things like that. What do you have for me as far as Toronto? I guess you play the if-then game.
I mean, I was like ecstatic when I got the news yesterday when Barnes was out, in addition to FVV. Because I mean, what do we look for? I mean, we know we're getting like 40 minutes of all these guys, right? Like, and it's so easy. So I just loaded in Toronto guys, and some of my friends and I were talking, and he was like, is 4 too many? I was like, no, Like not definitely. No, I mean, these guys are going to play 40 minutes. So I like the spot again against the Bulls that are, getting worse on the defensive end without Caruso, without Lonzo. And so I think this is a great matchup, a great game environment overall. Obviously, we need this news to, see which guys we're going to like. But Siakam looked amazing doing the point. He just wanted to just, back everybody down on the inside and, and just go to work. And I would expect the same because Vooch is their rim protector, right? So they don't really have much in the way of rim protection right now either. So, we need the news personally, but I do like all these guys again.
What if everybody's in? Do you prioritize anybody in Toronto?
No, I still think there will be good plays in this game, right? Because he plays such a tight rotation. These guys will get huge minutes. It's just now the prices, are a little bit higher than I would like if we have Van Vliet on the court too. That's
kind of my thought too. Like, I guess I'm fine with Siakam if everybody's in, but ideally you want one of Barnes or FEV, especially if both are out, have at it, good time. But TJ, your thoughts as far as Toronto, is that kind of sort of basically the same thing? We're playing the if-then game.
Yeah, we're playing the if-then game, and a couple other people I wanted to touch on for if Van Vliet and Barnes are out, and they run that same big starting lineup. Precious Achiuwa played almost 25 minutes last game, and his price went down. He didn't have the best game, but it dropped to, he's in the 3K, like mid 3Ks on both FanDuel and DraftKings. I think 38 on DraftKings, 37 on FanDuel. So Achiuwa is a good value play if he starts and they're all out. Take shots on Chris Boucher on DK. If he starts, he had a bad game last game, but we've all seen what Chris Boucher's ceiling can be if he gets the minutes. If everybody's in, I don't love them. Gary Trent is still cheap enough. You can take shots on him. He'll still get good minutes. These guys are fighting for a playoff spot, and Nick Nurse knows they have a very solid starting lineup when they're all healthy, and they have next to no bench right now. So they're going to keep running these guys for as many minutes as he can.
I'll say this about Precious. I think he's more playable on FanDuel. DK center only. That center spot's got value to it. On FanDuel, you get that forward spot. So
yeah, I agree completely.
And he's not this great fantasy point minute guy either. 0.87, 0.85. There's at a certain point where all points matter. If he puts up 23, 24, whatever it is, it's just kind of sort of okay, I guess, or 25, whatever the number is. Maybe he could put up 30, of course, but you know what I mean. The spot there at center has some value on DK. How about the Bulls, TJ?
And on FanDuel, I actually like him a lot if all of those guys are out, because you look last game too, he played 25 minutes and they played against the Charlotte Hornets, where yes, they play Mason Plumlee, but Plumlee is not exactly an imposing force in the middle, whereas Achiuwa is going to be their best bet to guard Vucevic. So I actually think he's going to be playing quite a few minutes. On the Chicago side, it's going to be a bit of a tale of two sides. On FanDuel, Zach LaVine is still criminally underpriced at only 7,500. And so I think he's a great play over there. On DK, I like DeRozan a bit better because DeRozan's cheaper than LaVine on DK, but on FanDuel, he's already up to 9K. So White, Dosunmu, those guys, their shots are fine, but it's a 10-game slate. I don't love them. So DeRozan on DK and LaVine on FanDuel.
First game back for LaVine after like 10 days off. There was no real minutes limit. He played 35 for what it's worth. And that was kind of sort of, I think, a wait and see. If he's playing well, just keep him out there. I think that's what was going on there. He's playing well, so they kept him out there. Kirk D, is anything to add there as far as Chicago?
No, just this AO kid looks amazing when I watch him.
He looks good.
Yeah, he looks really good. But yeah, no, on over on Yahoo, Vooch is kind of playable. He's pretty playable over there. He's kind of cheap. So,
all right, let's move on. Let's talk about the Denver Nuggets in Brooklyn. 221.5 is the total. Like really, really clear. Like a fun way to start your lineups. We're going to talk about playing like DeJounte versus Ja is a fun way to start your lineups with Memphis and San Antonio. Another fun way to do it is to run. Has anybody thought about this? Maybe playing Jokic and Harden. They're playing in the same game. I wonder if anybody's considered that. You can play Jokic and Harden here. 221.5 is a total. Denver back-to-back and travel 3-point dogs here. Of course, we know KD's not playing. We know Irving's not playing. So it's the Harden show in Brooklyn. Nick Claxton is out tonight for Brooklyn, as is Millsap. We talked about Irving and Durant. As far as Denver, we're expecting, we're not sure about Will Barton. He's questionable. If he doesn't play, Jokic goes from stupendous to ridiculous. He's good no matter what. TJ, yeah, the two studs in this game are both really, really appealing. Duh.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think my plan for tonight, as we speak, Dean, as you were going through that, I'm entering 150 lineups over on FanDuel just because there's so many plays I like tonight. And I think it's an MME night. I want to go for it. And so I think I'm going to go out of my way to either have Jokic and Harden in that same lineup together or go out of my way to fade both of them in the same lineup completely because
so both are none.
Exactly, because I'm thinking if this game is close, they're both going to smash. If this game is blowout either way, then there's a chance that they fail. And so I think that's going to be my main plan for tonight. But if Barton is out as well, this is a fun one to go full game stack because you got Monty Morris is a cheap price. Aaron Gordon is starting to get priced up a little bit. What's he on DK? 65. Yeah, so he's priced up, but Monty Morris is a nice cheap price. You look over to the Brooklyn side, you got Aldridge, you got Harden, you got Mills, you got Kessler Edwards. So there's cheap plays to go along with the expensive ones. This is going to be a game I'm either going to try and get a lot of exposure to or none at all.
I understand why, but we have currently 14% ownership on Jokic on DK, 44% for Harden. And again, how many 80s does Jokic have to drop? I know he's 12.4K and it looks like a big old number there, Kirk. But he pays it off. He's awesome. Pairing him with Harden is a fabulous idea. The secondary pieces in this game are kind of rough. Like Kessler Edwards, sure. I just don't trust anything Brooklyn does outside of a few pieces. Jump in here.
Now, speaking to that, like the edge on Yahoo the last few slates has just been simply fading Kessler Edwards. Everybody has to play this guy for their 15 to 20 points that they want. And if you can beat that, you win. It's like it's come down to that. I don't know why. I mean, he's getting minutes. I get it. But he's just such a low usage guy. I mean, if you just watch him, he does nothing. So you have to, you're praying for like a steal and a block and a rebound and so I probably will be fading him for sure. But yeah, James Harden and Jokic, obviously that's like the two best studs on the slate tonight. And then, we're waiting on the Barton news. Monty Morris played pretty well. So depending on his price on which side, I mean, DK, he's definitely cheap enough to get in the mix. And, maybe Patty Mills too. Maybe Patty Mills comes out of the woodworks a little in this game tonight. I don't know.
He's got to score, but he can put 25 real points in the bucket. He can hit 6 or 7 threes. That's possible. That's small forward Patty Mills to you, by the way. Forward on DK. I think he's still a small forward on DK.
And, is James Harden's a small forward on FanDuel, if I remember correctly?
Yeah, which he has played some 3. Like that's actually like legit. Like when it's him, Kyrie, and Mills, he will be the technical 3, but in no circumstances Mills the 3. Unless I miss something. Edwards, by the way, to speak to your point, 13% usage. That's not appealing. 0.69, 0.71 fantasy points per minute, depending on what site you're shopping on. They are resting. Who are they resting tonight? The big Claxton. They had a 3 center rotation last night, so it's a little bit thinner with Sharp and LMA, but 10-game slate. I don't know if I want to play that game. You want to play that game, TJ?
Yeah, I'll be playing some Aldridge tonight. I'm not going to be playing a lot of Sharp, but I'll be mixing in a little bit of Aldridge now that I'm playing 150.
Fair enough. Anything else that's worth saying here?
No, that's I'm going to be overweight to both Jokic and Harden. I know they like Jokic is 25-ish on FanDuel. Harden's probably going to be over 50. I'm planning on being overweight on both and then having some lineups where I'm playing neither.
All right. Do you want to say what's up to the people out there watching us on YouTube? Hit that like button. Do subscribe. Do join the conversation. How do you do that? Join the Rotogrinders Discord, rotogrinders.com/Discord. Go to the live stream chat channel, not a premium channel. It's a free channel. Anybody can join it. Just below Chiefs Prop Shop, which is also, that's free as well. Does not cost you anything. You do not have to be a premium member. And whatever questions you want us to elaborate on, we'll do our best to knock it out. End of the show. Still 3 games to go. Making some pretty good time here. I believe it's like 17, 18 minutes to go before we yield and makes let crunch time take us home for the premium members. Crunch time, of course. The premium show takes you guys straight up to lock. If you have any questions, as many details are possible, makes the question much easier to answer. 3 more to go. Memphis and San Antonio. This is another one, TJ. I'm curious what you're going to do here. 228.5 is the total here. San Antonio is a 4.5 point dog. They had a blowout last night, so their players didn't play crazy minutes. So it should be a little bit easier on the back-to-back for them. They're really, really healthy. KBD is out. Otherwise, they're good to go. Memphis, we may or may not get Desmond Bane back. We're not sure. Health protocol situation. Brandon Clark is also questionable, but they are without Dylan Brooks, Anderson, and Jones. And in that circumstance, we've seen John Morant play a ton of minutes, a boatload of minutes. And TJ, you were talking about pairing Jokic and Harden together. What about pairing Morant and Murray together? That seems like a fun idea.
It's a very fun idea, and I think that's exactly how I'm going to go tonight. It's going to be a big game stack day for me. And the reason for that is we've seen so many on these COVID slates, like last night is a perfect example, whereas people are objectively good plays. They have good medium projections, and then the game ends up being a 20, 30, 40 point game. And so I think my plan for this game is, when I'm playing Harden, I'm also playing Jokic. When I'm playing Morant, I'm also going to play some DeJounte Murray, and then just mix in all the value pieces I like with them and focus on getting some game stacks in each lineup.
Third favorite player in this game is who?
Third favorite player in this game. It depends, I think, a lot on the Memphis injury news, but switching over this to the San Antonio side, Keldon Johnson has a nice FanDuel price like he seemingly has all year long. He doesn't smash it very often, but if he lands in a lineup, I don't mind it. Pirtle's price is getting up there. If Brandon Clark is out, I honestly don't hate not Steven Adams. The opportunity cost is too high. The opportunity cost
Adams is 4 or 5 on DK.
Yeah, he's real cheap
opportunity cost thing.
On DK, there you go. So DK, it's Steven Adams.
I think I like the big body of Keldon Johnson. He just seems too cheap on both sites. 5K on DK, 5.3 on FanDuel. Pretty good fantasy point minute player. 0.89 on DK, 0.86 on FanDuel. Your thoughts here, Kirk Dees? I'm assuming you like both of the point guards in this game, and feel free to expand on that thought.
I mean, it's impossible not to like both of them. They're like my two favorite players in the league now, pretty much. I mean, I've been touting DeJounte Murray for a couple of years now, how good he's going to be. And it's really nice to see him evolve this season. And Ja has just been ridiculous too. So, I mean, you look at Ja the last 2 games, he's 40% usage in each game and, monster minutes. And the thing with him, sorry, that's my dog in the background. Things with him has been that, they love to run, large rotations and, keep him around the 30 to 34 minute mark in a lot of games. We're seeing now 39, 37, 41 minutes in the last game. So let's just keep riding this, right? And if this game goes off and it stays competitive, which I think it will, I think both of these teams are really fun. And I think there's a good chance that this game is pretty competitive the entire way. So yeah, I want both of them. I would, play some Derek White instead of DeJounte in some, and still pair him with Ja, one or the other in lineups. And I think Jaren Jackson Jr. is in a great spot. I mean, he's pretty cheap on DK, and has monster upside and if things shake out right in this game.
Big time. I undersold it a little bit when I was talking about it as well. Derek White on DK, he's $1,000 cheaper there. I don't mind switching him instead of Murray in some lineups. And then over on the Memphis side, Jaren Jackson Jr., fantastic price on DK. I like him there way better than FanDuel. And if we get Clark and Bane out, I'm going to take a couple shots on Zaire Williams, sub 1%. I'm going to take a shot or two on John Conchar. Just to throw into lineup, Zaire Williams had a 30-plus point fantasy point game the other day. If he's going to get 30 minutes, I'll have him in 2 or 3 lineups just so I'm above that 1%.
What about Melton?
Melton on DK, not on FanDuel.
I'll throw in a little Vassell too, with Diop still out. His minutes has been pretty decent. So 29 minutes his last game. I know it was against Houston and it was kind of blowout issues and whatnot, but I think that, he's a good offensive scorer and can do some work. So I think he's worth a sprinkle.
Yeah, there's some fun little pieces in this game. And it's hard to figure out who it is beyond the 2 key guys. And like you said, it could be the other guys. Like White has a good price, especially on DK. Do like him a good bit. Triple J, always a good tournament play. It seems like a good game environment as well. 2 of the faster teams in the league. And the minutes they've been playing Morant has been really, really appealing. It's an island game. Didn't play yesterday. Not playing tomorrow. Yeah, I think Morant is really, really interesting. Both those guys. This entire game, one of the better games amongst the 10 on the slate that's worth talking about. A rematch of a game a couple days ago, Phoenix at Utah, 223.5 is the total. Pretty big number for a Utah game. Utah is down, two pretty good defensive teams. Utah is down a 1.5 as far as the Vegas line, and in part because they're going to still be without Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert. They're expecting to get Royce O'Neal, Jalen Joe, Bojan Bogdanovic, and Mike Conley all back. Phoenix is hindered as well because they're without Ayton, their number one center. JaVale McGee, I guess their number two center. Well, no, doesn't matter. He's not available. Crowder's not available. Campaign's not available. So it's going to be Bismack versus Whiteside. So I'll throw this one to you, Kirk Dees. I think Bismack is really interesting at 5'5" on DK. Again, center spot. He's been awesome of late. It helps when you play with a guy like Chris Paul, who's played 40 minutes last game.
There's the key right there. That you nailed it. That's the key for Biz.
Yeah, well, he's gonna be playing with Chris Paul tonight. Do you like Bismack?
Yo, definitely. I'm on board with Bismack. And if it was against Gobert, I'd be out on him because he would probably just get absolutely manhandled. But the fact that it's Whiteside, it just sets up really great for him. But like you said, the key is Chris Paul out there. It just puts him in a lot of really favorable spots. He's a little undersized as a big, but he's playing with a lot of confidence. He's looked really good. I mean, I've had to sweat out a couple of games so far with him. So I like what I see. So I'll go right back to him at these prices. I don't love the ownership, obviously. He's going to be pretty popular, and so definitely, you don't have to go too hard on him, but I do like him. I'm interested to hear some thoughts on Cam Johnson at the ridiculous ownership tonight.
Oh, I mean, it's one of those things where, generally speaking, I do not want to be on the overside of a big number of a guy who's super reliant on scoring, because that's what he is. He's super reliant on scoring, but you kind of alluded to it. The price is really, really good. Like, just
price is good. He started. He's a good player, but like, he is 3-point dependent, right? So he went 5 for 8 from 3 in the last one, and so is he going to do that again tonight?
But like you said, they're thin. Like Elf Payton joined the rotation last game due to injuries. They're without, Campaign, they're without Crowder, a lot of bodies missing in the Phoenix side. So like the minutes should be there. Jump in here, TJ, your thoughts on all this, the center conversation on both sides. We're both on Bismack, it sounds like, and Campaign chalk. Not Campaign chalk, Cam Johnson chalk, especially on DK.
Yeah. So on DK, you play him in cash games. You basically have no choice at that ownership. Because it's exactly, in cash games, you're obviously not looking for necessarily upside. In tournaments, it's a pretty easy fade. Do I think he will be a good play at 4,300? I really do. They have no bench bodies right now. And so when he's playing with that second unit, he runs the entire second unit. And I like him on DK. It's going to be tough to be overweight that number, but I think he's a fantastic cash game play. Bismack's a great center play on DK. On FanDuel, Whiteside's my favorite center of the night.
Okay.
When you see, now don't get me wrong, I'm already talking myself out of it. I will be overweight, and so I'll be overweight of his ownership percentage. I will say that. Where I'm scared is because Chris Paul could just pick and roll him to death. But Bismack Biyombo is going to be somebody who he's only going to set screens and stay under the net. It's not like Whiteside's going to have to be worrying about what Biyombo's doing after that screen and roll. He's just going to be able to stay low. And so I think this is the type of game where we could see him have 5, 6, 7 blocks, just because he's got 3 or 4 inches on Bismack Biyombo. Bismack Biyombo is not a tall man. He plays big, but he's not a tall man for a center. And so I think this is going to be one of the games that Whiteside is going to rack up the stocks unless Chris Paul just pulls him out of the game.
Man, Kirk Dees, Whiteside?
I can't say I'm not worried about Whiteside.
Preface this by saying Whiteside is 5,500 on FanDuel, where he's 66 on DK.
Yeah. 66 on DK.
And Biyombo is 63 on FanDuel.
Like Gogo, the same price on FanDuel. I guess you like Whiteside more than Gogo.
I do.
Kirk Dees, what do you have for me?
Yeah, I'm scared of Whiteside on DraftKings for sure.
DraftKings, I don't love them either.
It's just tough with
Sorry,
the Suns. They don't give up a ton of projection. I mean, they don't give up a ton of blocks in general. He could do fine. He played more minutes than I expected in his first game back. I thought they would keep him under because of the conditioning. You know, when you hear conditioning and Whiteside, but they're really forced to play this guy. So, I mean, he's a great fantasy point per minute producer. If he stays out of foul trouble, definitely, you know, he has a really nice ceiling, so I can get behind it. I'm just scared at the price and on DraftKings, and there's other options I like better, but I'm not playing FanDuel tonight, so that's why my thoughts there. But yeah, Chris Paul has been amazing, but it's tough to swing that price tonight against Utah here in this run it back. I mean, they said they wanted to keep his minutes down. They didn't. They lied, and he's played 41 and 40 in his last two. But you'd think they'll keep him down a little. What interests me is like playing like Mikal Bridges and eating some of that salary like over Cam Johnson, and like trying to get some separation there and have Cam Johnson have a bad shooting game and have Mikal Bridges have a good offensive game.
8 steals? How do you get there with Bridges?
I mean, he's got upside. He definitely has upside. He shoots the 3 ball too. So I mean, it all depends. I mean, it's a high variance play, right? Like it's tough at his price tag, but I mean, there's definitely scenarios where he can go for 40 fantasy points and Cameron Johnson can bust, and that can put you out in a nice position. But I mean, I don't love it.
Yeah. No, it's hard to enjoy Bridges on a 10-game slate. I hear you, but you're trying to think differently and trying to think of a way to be ownership wise. I get all that, but DK kind of priced a lot of players out on Utah. 6-6 for Whiteside. Of course you can play that, but 7-4 for Clarkson. That's tough. 7-2 for Connolly is tough. Bogdanovich is 6-9, not nice. Jingles, I guess you can play at 5K, but he's older and his upside's kind of subdued and he's not breaking the slate. We should move on. Unless TJ, you have anything else? We got one more game. We got some questions from chat. We got to step aside soon. Anything else we're saying?
Utah's great on FanDuel and Phoenix is great on DK. It's really a tale of two. It's really a tale of two sides. Chimezi Metu just got ruled out, so that affirms the Rashawn Holmes potential cheapy play we were talking about over on DK. De'Aaron Fox is still questionable. Hit us with his
Bagley. Interesting.
He's somewhat interesting, but like his price is high. He's not as cheap as he was, so I don't love him.
Okay. All right. Last game, Dallas, Portland. 217 is the total. Portland is a 4-point dog here. We saw Tim Hardaway probably out for the season, hurt himself last night. That's rough there for Dallas. Portland is without Covington and Little, and Smith. DSJ is questionable. Of course, Lillard's out. Their offense is basically CJ, Simons, and Nurkic. They're priced up. Well, the prices are pretty good, but Dallas is good defensively. Kirk Dees, we got to make this quick, but your thoughts as far as Dallas and Portland?
I love Porzingis tonight at his price tag, at least on DraftKings. Like him over on Yahoo too. I just think they're just with Portland losing Covington and Little, their rim protection is going to be non-existent. They got Nurk, there, and that's it. And I don't think anyone can really chase him around either. I think you're going to see a big offensive game here. I know Luke.
Are you afraid of the back-to-back?
I kind of, but he only played 25 minutes.
Yeah, he got ejected too, but the game was over anyway.
Yeah, so I think he comes out, and I think we can expect more minutes tonight. So I'm not really worried about the back-to-back. I'm more worried about Luka in general.
TJ, what do you have for me? Is highest projected player on DK is Nurkic at 15%. That seems a little bit high. Brunson at also 15% on DK. If we jump over to FanDuel, we're looking at 27% for the Brunson burner. DFS at 15%. All the Portland guys are down, but the prices are better on DK. What do you have here, TJ?
I like this game, not necessarily because of the totals, but because the ownerships are low and both teams are undermanned. So Hardaway is a bit of a usage hog, and so I like what that opens up for Brunson. DFS is cheap enough where you can take a shot on him. I'd rather take a shot on some of these Dorian Finney-Smith, not my favorite, but some of these Portland cheapies. if you want to get off the Cam Johnson chalk, as opposed to doing something like Bridges. I don't think necessarily if Johnson fails, that would mean Bridges does well. I don't mind taking a shot on Ben McLemore, especially we got Dennis Smith Jr., who's questionable right now. Ben McLemore is in the 3K, in the mid 3Ks. He's probably going to have to play a buttload of minutes because Little's out, Covington's out. They don't have Nance. I'm going to take some shots on Nurkic. McCollum on DK has a very nice price. Powell on DK has an acceptable price. I like especially the Portland side, but like Kirk D said earlier there, I like Porzingis on DK as well. He's a bit more expensive on FanDuel, but I like him on DK.
Yeah, the one tricky thing is if something goofy happens, it might happen between 8:30 and 10 o'clock, and you only have 2 games to work with. But like, don't go to bed, don't make any plans, or turn your alerts on your phone and all that kind of stuff, because we can see something. But like Porzingis has been its worst subdued last night because of the combination of the ejection and the blowout. So we've seen it before where he sits on back-to-backs, but maybe it won't happen tonight. Kirk Dees, we got some questions
he
here.
He has played on back-to-backs though as well.
Yeah. I'm not saying he hasn't. That's what I said. My bad. I was wrong.
Yeah.
That's not what I was trying to say. It just happened before where they've rested him.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, the thought is always there. It is a little bit of a worry, but I'm not so worried tonight. I think they need him out there, especially with THJ going down. I like Anthony Simons. We've seen a ceiling with this kid. He's electric. I know CJ's back, but I think CJ's going to be, I think they'll put Dorian Finney-Smith and try to lock down CJ as best they can. And I think they're going to, beat us, Simons. So, and I think he's up to that challenge. So I kind of like him. His price is bad. Don't get me wrong. This is GPPs only because his price is, bad since CJ's come back. But yeah, that's just somebody I like. I don't know who else. Like I don't know how much Ben McLemore I can do tonight. I get it. It's scary. I gotta come around to some more of this.
I think DSJ's got to sit for you to really consider him.
Yeah, for you. But another guy I want to throw out there, not somebody you want to be playing lots. If maybe probably like not somebody you'd play single entry, but playing lots of lineups tonight on FanDuel, not DK because he's a center. Opportunity cost too high. I will have Trendon Watford in my player pool tonight because if Yusuf Nurkic gets into foul trouble, they have no one else on the roster capable of playing center.
And he certainly can go into foul trouble.
Yeah. Okay,
and on top of it as well, like Dallas runs 2 bigs a lot of the time. So I like Watford as like a 3 to 5%er to get different tonight.
All right, I promise the chat will answer some questions. Does Kirk Dees like Harden? I'm going to answer for you. Yes.
Chop. Yes. Yeah. Chop.
Is that Chop asking a question?
Yeah,
it doesn't say who's asking the question.
Jared Allen is in. Jared Allen is in.
Oh, okay. All right. Do we like PJ with Hayward being out? Is Hayward officially out? Yeah. Oh, yeah. How much do we like PJ Washington now? He gets a bump, right, TJ?
Big time. Yeah, I like PJ Washington for sure.
So can we play Luke Kennard and Mann in the same lineup, Kirk Dees?
Yeah, they're cheap. They're both cheap. So you can.
All right. So TJ, you're playing Harden and Joker in the same lineup. Can you also run in Jeff Green? Is he somebody that might make it into one of those lineups?
Maybe, but he's not somebody I'm targeting.
You don't want that to happen.
Mean Jeff Green on the back-to-back here.
All right, so Kirk Dees, if you guys can both try to figure this one out, whoever gets there first, $4,500 or less. There's no position given, but on DK, $4,500 or less on DK, your favorite play amongst those options. Will Jalen Smith get back in? I presume that's what's going to happen. I presume Bismack draws to start. Jalen Smith plays 17 to 20 or so backup minutes. I'm not sure if his price is fully down at the floor. It's probably not. I feel like I bought enough time for somebody to have the answer. Best 4,500 play.
He can agree with me. TJ can agree with me with Rashawn Holmes.
I'm not sure if I'll go best one. I'm pulling it out now. I do like that one though. We'll keep it on Rashawn Holmes for now, and then you like Cam Johnson is the
for cash, but
best points per dollar. But if we're talking trying to get a little silly with tournaments or get something more low owned,
be as ambitious as you want to be.
Cody Martin.
Yeah, he might get some ownership shuffled his way too now with the news as far as Hayward. But we got to step aside and get out of here. Went over a couple minutes, but we appreciate y'all hanging with us. hit that like button if you're watching us on YouTube. Do subscribe. Do turn on notifications. I believe tomorrow night, Crunch Time is free on YouTube because it's just a 2-gamer. That usually means I don't work. So I don't get out of bed for.
Wait, I think we're on the
delay.
schedule, Dean. Did they correct it?
Am I? I don't know.
Wait,
I haven't looked, to be honest.
I'm going to be subbing in again tomorrow, it sounds like.
Oh, if I'm on the schedule, so be it. You know, I'm happy to work.
It says me and you, Dean. I don't know if that's a mistake or not, but
well, this is something we can take off air because Crunch Time's knocking on the door. Do hit that like button on YouTube. Appreciate y'all watching. That was TJ. TJ, thank you for stepping in. Appreciate you crushing it. Thanks for
No
stepping in.
problem at
Hopefully
all.
Grant's internet will be back soon enough. That was Kirk Dees. Thanks to producer Steven. That was basketball. We're out of here. Holler.